So I was all psyched for a nice long day of volunteering. It was going to begin in Long Island City, assisting the Housing Works thrift shops with their sort of spring opening. And then it was going to continue on into my Housing Works usual 2 o'clock shift. So I started making my moves around 8:30, 8:40 or so. Got to Parsons and Archer by 9 o'clock, so I knew I had plenty of time to comfortably get to Long Island City. I took the E train to 71st and Continental, but I should have taken it all the way to 75th and Roosevelt. Switched to the R train and took that to 36th Street. When I got to 36th Street, the fun began. The directions said, oh, get off at 36th Street, and then, you need to get to 35th Street, and the address is 4849. Seemed totally straightforward. You get out there, and then 35th Street just dead ends on Northern Boulevard, and there's just some buildings. So I assume that to get to 48 and 4849, I needed to go down 35th Street, the only way that was available to me, which was actually west when I needed to go east. But as I kept going down there, I noticed that the numbers were going down, and I knew that that wasn't going to be what I needed to do. So I got on my PDA, looked over my email, looked at Zoe left her cell phone number on there, got that up and got on the horn and called her. She said she had gone by the 7 train, and it was very straightforward. She didn't really know the address, so I just told her, look, I'll find it, I'll make it there. So I just kept going down. It was actually sort of north. Down was going up, and went down to around 39th Street and Northern Boulevard. At this point, there was like a bridge, sort of overpass, that went over some train tracks, and I crossed that. This thing was crazy. The cars were whipping by me on the road, and I really wasn't convinced that this was really the right way to go. And it's about here I'll take a break and sort of tell you a little bit about Long Island City as far as I know it. Long Island City is technically in Queens. It's very close to Manhattan. It's a lot of old building stock, probably zoned historic. It's a number of old warehouses and buildings. So when you get there, it's extremely industrial, with only pockets of stores, here and there. It makes you feel extremely isolated. It's very, I don't know, it's very not residential, and very not straightforward either. So I went across this bridge, and I'm going across, and planes are coming down. It was pretty crazy scene. There were train tracks underneath me, and I'm just sort of crossing. Got to the other side, and found out that as I expected, 35th Street was there again. Made my way from 39th to 35th. Once I got there, the address starts around 43rd, so I had about another 5 sort of avenue blocks, I guess you could call them, to go until I found the building. When I talked to Zoe, she said to look out for a big smokestack, which she said looked kind of like a lighthouse, and look for a yellow sign that says the Maslin Building, and the address is 4849. So I just kind of kept going down there. And I finally made it. When I got there, I, went up, took some stairs, in the wrong direction, and I called Zoe to find out exactly where I needed to go. And she said she'd come and find me, so she did. We get into this room, and she meets me in the hallway, and we walk in. Now, this place actually stunned me when I walked in. Just the sheer activity. It reminded me of, there's a place down in Orlando called 100 Monkeys, that does a screen printing shop in a warehouse building. And why it reminded me of that is in that screen printing shop there'd be all this sort of industrial material, which this place didn't have. But there were all these but in pockets you'd have these little desk kind of areas, these little sort of little small, more personalized workspaces. And then, big ceilings, and sort of kind of chaos, just so much things going on. A lot of people were in there, and there were these black bags toward the back that were everywhere. There were lines, there were racks of clothes that were on hangers. Some had price tags on them. Then you get to another, then as you went deeper in the room, closest to the exit door were these racks of clothes. As you went to the next point, there were sort of different items of, different, between the desks you'd have these big boxes overflowing with clothes of different kinds, these huge bins everywhere. And there were sort of, these stations were set up. And then behind, all the way sort of in the back third of the room, was nothing but black trash bags that made it seem like they were just nothing but of garbage, with all the broken boxes that had been strewn everywhere too. But they were all filled with clothes. And when I mean they were filled with clothes, I mean they were filled with clothes. They were heavy to pick up, and every kind of clothes were in there. Housewares, shoes, socks, pants, shirts, men's, women's. And it was our job, when I met when she led us over the table, to sort of go in there and really just sort men's and women's initially. And then there were things that were thrown away, that they couldn't use, like the toys, which seemed like such a great waste, but they just couldn't sell them in the store. And then there were these other sort of rag bins, where things were kind of torn up and kind of, not in that great condition. So those were the sort of what you had to set things aside. Were trash, stuff that had to be thrown away, the rag bins, which were stuff that were pretty kind of banged up, and then there were the usual clothes. And we were doing the first line of defense, right next to the bags. You open up these bags, and we open them up, and then it moves on to another station where they sort of get, the people there look over. Make sure stuff is see the condition it's in, make sure it's not stained, and then it goes and does another layer before it even gets to the racks and the people that are sorting there, which are sorting between summer and fall and things of that nature. So it's a big there's a number of stages in this clothing process that we were a part of. And when I mean, everything was in those bags, I mean everything was in those bags. I mean, I had no problem buying, vintage clothing. But, I usually stop at shirts and coats. I never really usually make it to pants. And I never make it down to shoes. But there were bras, there were panties that had urine stains in them. Totally gross. There was all, men's underwear, swimwear. It was all there. And we had to sort of sift through it. We had gloves. We were wearing latex gloves. But as we went through we were dealing with the people that worked there, you get these horror stories about oh, we just get rid of all the bedding because of bed bugs. I'm like, oh God, man, they're on all my clothes. And then you start thinking about, what's the scariest thing you found in there? And they're like, they found used tampons and used condoms. It's just all kinds of crap that's in there. But you get out there, and you just you go through it. You grab a bag. They wanted us to keep inventory on how many bags we did, but that was just guesstimation. We weren't really keeping that, good of a tabs on it. And these black bags, man, they were everywhere, and they were so deep. I mean, they looked like they were coming to get us. And there was no way we could have ever, we didn't even do a glimmer of a dent in them. And we were there for hours. And I don't know how long some of those clothes have been sitting there, but I don't know how long it'll take to get, for them to actually go through them. And they have a lot of people working in this place. There's just that much quantity. And that's, it's really, what's going on in there. It's pure madness, pure chaos. And you're in there trying to do, the best you can.